Hey there guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Anna Sophia if you're new here, and I post home decor and DIY content every Sunday, and this Sunday is no exception. We are going to be doing some Ikea hacks. I know how much you guys love Ikea, and I love Ikea too, so I cannot wait to share with you guys what I've been working on. Also, today's video is proudly sponsored by Nordgreen. If you've never heard of Nordgreen, they are a minimalist designer watch brand, but we'll talk more about Nordgreen a little bit later. For now, let's go ahead and get into our first Ikea hack. For our first Ikea hack, I really wanted to make a woven cane stool. And my favorite stool actually from Ikea is called the Curie stool. It is $12.99, which is already super affordable. It's got a really beautiful modern design, but I really wanted to figure out a way that I could add some cane webbing to this project. So I ordered this cane on Amazon. It was actually really affordable. I'll make sure I link it in the description box below. And I'm just kind of messing with it, playing with it, seeing what's gonna look right. And if you do exactly what I did, you'll definitely have some cane left over if you order the one from Amazon. So I just followed the instructions to a T with this cane project. So the first thing you have to do is soak the cane webbing for 30 to 45 minutes. And then you will want to soak the spline for 5 to 15 minutes. So I just set a timer on my phone for 40 minutes to get the cane started. And then once I was about 30 minutes out, I added the spline. So the spline, if you're not familiar, is what's in the frame right here. And it's just kind of like the rotting for the cane. So I'm just sketching out the stool, the cane, and where I'm gonna add everything and how it's gonna look and the idea that I have on my mind on paper so I know what to follow. Also, invest in some good scissors and some Gorilla Glue sticks because that made this project go so much smoother. Cane is such an interesting textile to work with because after it's been soaked, it becomes so much more malleable to work with. So I'm able to kind of manipulate it around the back end of that stool. So now that I've determined kind of how much I'm gonna need, I'm just trimming off that bottom part that I know for sure I'm not gonna be using anyway with my scissors. I'll make sure I link these scissors in the description box below. They are amazing, and I can't believe I did so many fabric projects without them before. One thing that I did find to be helpful was just to fold the cane webbing in half so that way I could create the same arch and then cut the same amount off of the bottom so everything was nice and symmetrical and matching on both sides. In order to attach the cane to the back of the stool, I went back and forth with this so much, but I ended up going with Gorilla Glue for this portion. I did use my staple gun at the end, but for this part, I decided it was gonna be best to just apply some hot glue. And surprisingly, the hot glue with the soaked cane was still totally fine. It still adhered really well to everything that I was doing. So I gave myself a little bit of slack on the cane just to make sure that I could always, you can always take away stuff, but you can't always add it back. So I just did one archway around with one spline, one solid piece, and then I'm just trimming off the excess. And then I'm taking another piece of spline and attaching it directly to the back of the stool. So then that way everything is really contained and it looks really well finished. And basically I just kept adding on those splines to make sure that all of the glue and all of the pieces that were like attached together with glue were all kind of being disguised and hidden. So then that way everything was like really clean. So I'm just pulling down on these bottom pieces to see how it would look stapled, and I really liked how that looked. But before I staple it, I just want to make sure that everything was really well solidified because cane does tighten as it dries. So I didn't want there to be any like weird bumps or anything like that. I just didn't know because I've never worked with cane before. So I wanted to make sure that everything was kind of like dried first before I clamped it down for good. Another thing that I did do, I didn't like that cane at the bottom, like at the base of the stool part. So I decided to take one of the splines and cut it in half. So then that way I could kind of add almost just like another like little detail, but just to give it a more clean finish. And I just did that with my scissors and again, applied that with some hot glue. And I had just a little bit more of that spline left, so I decided to add it to the top just to make it one solid piece, and I stapled the bottoms down to the base of the stool. As I mentioned earlier, this video is proudly sponsored by Nordgreen. You guys have heard me talk about Nordgreen so many times before this, and you know how much I love them. They're beautiful, they're aesthetic, their watches are everything that I'm about. And for Father's Day, I decided that I was going to gift my husband his very own Nordgreen watch. So I had asked him the other day, I asked, why don't you ever wear a watch? I never see you wear a watch, because my dad always wore a watch growing up. So he said that he had never had a watch that he liked enough to want to wear on a regular basis. So I was like, we gotta change that. And I knew that Nordgreen was definitely the way to go for someone like my husband, was because he is an incredibly indecisive person when it comes to certain things. And I feel like this just kind of eliminates that as a problem, because you can buy one watch and however many straps you want and constantly change things out depending on what you're doing or how you're feeling or whatever. For him, I ended up ordering the Philosopher black dial brown leather watch, and then just to switch it out if he wants to, I did the gunmetal mesh strap. So these are just the ones that I ended up going with for him, but they have so many different options to choose from. Another great thing about Nordgreen is all of their watches are ethically made in their Danish-owned factories and delivered in sustainable, eco-friendly, beautiful packaging made from upcycled plastics and FSC certified papers. Also, they run an extensive giving back program, which there's tons to read about, but just a little tidbit for you. In 2020, Nordgreen donated 6,500 months of education and over 23,000 months of clean water. Don't forget to use the link in the description box below to get your 15% off discount using the code NGFIA. So this project, for our second Ikea hack, we are going to be making a kind of oval side table using the Mary stool. This is one of my favorite stools to use because it's so affordable. It's only $4.99. And for the top piece of our table, we're going to be using the Roman Tisk, I believe that's how it's said, the Roman Tisk tray, and that is only $9.99, so also really affordable. So all in all, the main pieces that you'll need from Ikea are going to be about 15 bucks for a side table, so not too bad. So I'm just placing the tray on top of the stool. Obviously, I didn't add that stool part. It's just the tray directly to the legs of that stool. So the first thing I decided to do was give it a couple coats of black spray paint. I'll make sure I link the spray paint that I use in the description box below. I like a flat black paint, but if you like more of a satin, that would also look really good for this project as well. And once the paint had all dried, I just decided, you know, I could use my hot glue gun or I could just use E6000. And for some reason, when it comes to metal, my hot glue gun doesn't do the best job. So I prefer to use E6000 in these sorts of situations. So for the first project, I was really methodical and like very careful where I placed the glue. For this project, glue it up, because honestly, you need a lot of glue to make sure that everything is going to adhere really well together and that you're going to have a nice sturdy table. And now that our E6000 is on top of those legs, it's just time now to put the tray on top, and I'm just making kind of like minor adjustments to make sure that everything is nice and centered. And the tray actually has a mark where it is the center, so that was very helpful as well. So I just grabbed an old box and then I grabbed a 20-pound weight, and I wanted to place the weight inside of the box just so the weight didn't like ruin the bottom of the tray. And now one thing was just still missing a little something for me, and so I just decided to do a little bit of gold paint just on the rim of this tray just to give it a little something extra. Totally optional, but this is how it turned out. For the next Ikea hack, I really wanted to make some geometric bookends. I love bookends. I think they look so beautiful styled on shelves, and you can do them a million different ways. And I thought these Ekby Vaulter shelf brackets would be the perfect thing to make this project happen. I do want to mention, although these are from Ikea, I actually found these both at the thrift store for only $1.99 a piece. So make sure if you don't have an Ikea near you, you might find these pop up at your thrift store, because I've seen them multiple times. And I'm gonna take my miter saw to trim off all of those excess pieces that you would be using to attach to the wall and to the shelf itself. So I'm using my miter saw, but if you have a miter box, that would also work really well. And if you really wanted to, you could probably use the circular saw. After I was able to remove all of those little extra pieces of wood, they made the perfect shape for our bookends, and I decided I was just gonna take out my electric sander or my orbital sander and just did some medium grit sandpaper just to remove kind of the rough spots and make everything nice and smooth. a nice thing was that when we removed all of those little pieces of excess wood, it kind of removed a lot of those holes except for one. So I did have to use some wood filler on those holes just to make sure there wasn't like a hole there for no purpose. And once I filled that hole completely with wood filler, I just removed the excess and let that dry for about 2 hours. Now is where the customization part comes, and I decided to be very boring and just paint mine white, but you could totally take this any which way you want to. You could add contact paper and make them marble bookends, or you could do black, or you could do some fun painting project and make them more geometric, whatever you want to do, but I just decided to keep mine nice and simple and make them white. So another thought that I had was if you wanted to make these into almost like propagation station bookend situations like this one shown here, you could just drill a hole, add your tube inside that hole, and then propagate whatever you would like. And I think it would be really, really beautiful. I didn't end up doing it, but if you do it, please tag me on Instagram because I'd love to see how it turns out. For our last IKEA hack for this video, I really wanted to make some interesting pendant lights, and I've seen this done so many different ways, but I've never seen it done this way, so I wanted to give it a try. And I am using these ordning holders from IKEA. They're mainly used for utensils or really whatever you want to put in them. They're great storage containers, and they're so affordable. They're only $2.99 I think for the small ones, and I think $5.99 for the bigger one. So also you can order these on Amazon, which is where I ordered the 2 smaller ones. I already had the bigger one. And also from the dollar store, I ended up picking up one of those wire basket hangers only for $1, so super affordable there. And I'm just breaking off certain pieces from each chain. So I want one chain to be very short, one chain to be kind of in the middle, and then one chain to be very long because I have 3 lights that I'm trying to create. And because my clip wasn't big enough, so I had to add one of the chain links directly onto the top, so then that way I had something to attach it onto. So the silver is fine, but I don't really have silver in my house, so I decided that I was going to use some gold spray paint. I'll make sure I link it in the description box below, and then I'm also going to spray the chain as well. So there's not really a great way to spray paint chains like this, so I just kind of laid it out as best as I could, and then I had to just keep flipping it around to make sure that I got all of the areas. And then I flipped all of those cans upside down to make sure that I got the inside really well as well. And I probably had to do 2 solid coats of everything to make sure everything was really well covered. And then I ended up doing a poly acrylic coat as well because I wanted to make sure nothing scratched off. And after the spray paint had all dried, I just attached that chain to the canisters, and I wanted to kind of see how they were hanging. If I needed to readjust something, I would have, but it actually kind of worked out well. So I ended up doing a smaller one, the longest one, and then a smaller one as well at the bottom. So I felt like this looked the best. I think it would look even better if I had 5 canisters and really kind of like was able to hang down, but I was content with the 3. So now was the big thing. How do I make these lights, right? Because I can't feed a cord through every single one of these. So I opted for battery operated lights. I'll make sure I link the ones that I used. They're from Amazon. They were really affordable, and they actually worked really, really well and gave off the prettiest lights. So definitely recommend these ones. They take 3 AAA batteries. I have no idea how long they last because I just got them, but so far so good. And they come with a remote, which makes it even better because this is up very high. So I just hot glued all of the bases of these lights to the inside of the can. And then I just pop the lights in there, and I think they give off the coolest light, and it's actually amazing that there's no cord attached to it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked today's video, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and hit the subscribe button because I post home decor and DIY content every Sunday. And don't forget to check out the link in the description box below so you can find out all the information you'll need to get your Nordgreen watch for 15% off using my code NGFIA. And I hope I see you guys next Sunday. Bye!